Okay, so let's check out some density questions. What I'd like you to do is pause the video, look at these two questions, see what you think, and come on back and we'll talk about them. Or I'll talk to you about them, I guess I should say. Alright, so let's take a look. For density, which property is affected by a change in temperature? Well, if for some reason you forget the density equation, which of course you knew long before going into your chem class, remember on reference table T, there is the density equation. So D is equal to M over V. And what changes with temperature? Volume. Now, typically what happens with any substance is that as you go from, let's say, a solid to a liquid to a gas, the particles that make up the substance are spread further apart. And of course, you see these three boxes. If I'm going to go ahead and represent maybe a circle as an atom or a molecule, that as solids, my circles, and I apologize for my circles not being so great, we would have the atoms or molecules closer to closest together. Liquid, of course, they're close together, but not as much as a solid. And then for a gas, they're going to be further apart. So, what affects it? The temperature, whatever temperature the particles are at. And that affects volume, and it affects volume, then of course it also affects density. Now, don't forget that water has an exception to it, and that is that water as a solid, which of course we call it ice, is less dense than water in the liquid phase. So that is an exception. Okay, that typically doesn't happen, and that's why ice floats in water. Okay, and of course, my boxes here with my lovely circles helps us answer the second question. What is the relationship between the density of a substance and the particles that make up that substance? So again, the denser the substance, the closer the particles. One other thing about density I want to show you. Yes, this was my attempt here at a graph. And what if the graph had mass on the y-axis and volume on the x, and you were asked which of these two substances, I'm going to make it A and B, is less dense and which one is more dense? Hopefully you remember from math, the steeper the slope of the line, okay? Let me rephrase that. The greater the steepness of the line, the bigger the slope. And hopefully you would recognize, oh look, for slope, that's the change in y over the change in x. And what are we talking about here? M over v. And what's m over v? Density. So guess what? Substance A would have a greater density than substance B because it has a steeper line. So, check out more videos. Keep working hard. You'll notice there wasn't a plug-in question about density. It seems that New York State likes to ask questions about density, the physical property, more than plugging in a value, but it doesn't mean that you won't have to necessarily calculate a density in the future. Keep working hard, keep practicing, know those facts, know those definitions, practice your skills.